Things Are Getting Strange, Next Files Rewatch podcast. I'm Nick.
And I'm Kim.
And I have some kind of weird news.
What this time?
Well, I don't know if this is actually remotely correct or anything. It's something that was claimed by Ryan North, the comics writer.
Oh yeah,
Who'd
Squirrel
done
Girl.
Squirrel Girl and Dinosaur Comics and Jughead.
Yes.
Well, at least some of Jughead, because remember it was Chip Zdarsky, wasn't it?
Yes, that's right.
That's the bit we've read. We haven't read the Ryan North bit. But he put out something on Blue Sky, which was the apparent lyrics to the X-Files theme song.
Okay.
And I've no idea how serious it is, but the lyrics apparently are, The X-Files is a show with music by Mark Snow.
The X-Files is a show with music by Mark Snow. Yeah, all right.
So, not sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interestingly, as much as, I would sort of say that's madness. Do you remember Defunctland? The people who did the video about queuing and the video about the Dark Ride?
Oh, yes.
He did another video a few months ago, which was about the Disney Channel ident theme. Because apparently there was a big mystery on who composed it, because no one actually knew this little fact. People knew who did the Nickelodeon one, people knew who did the NBC one, no one knew who composed the Disney Channel one. So he did this, it's like an hour and a half documentary, I'll put a link in the description again, of finding out who composed the theme song, and he goes through this whole process, and it's really quite involved and had to talk to a lot of people.
That's
and a lot of dead ends. Eventually got to the composer, and it turns out the composer has done like loads of things, like the Universal theme is his. IBM's little sound signature and a whole load of other famous ones.
Okay.
Right down to this guy and his production company. And one of the tricks they said was that basically you could fit words to the little jingles. It's like IBM that's kind of expressed in the sound. So it's not out of space for the X-Files theme music to actually have those that's the thought process that went into it.
I'm just trying to think of how fast you'd have to shout Netflix to get it into their little
Oh, I don't think it was Netflix. So it's what if the example
You're
one.
thinking like the fanfare at the start of Universal movies.
Exactly. Or in Disney Channel, it says Disney Channel.
Oh yeah.
So it was examples like that. So yeah, so I can't dispute this one, but that was what I found this week. I thought it was interesting. Do you have any news for us?
I do not, I'm afraid, this week. I'm still waiting for more gossip about the next FanFest.
Oh, that's okay. Well then, I suppose we should talk about angels.
Really? Is that what we're calling them?
Nephilim? No, they are Nephilim, okay, and Seraphim.
Yeah.
Bad CGI? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, actually no, but I've got my surprise for you, because you'll like this.
Go on, give your intro then.
So, first episode is All Souls, directed by Alan Coulter, story by Dan Angel and Billy Brown, teleplay by Frank Spotnitz and John Shaban. Broadcast on the 26th of April 1998. Guest stars. So, I'm going to build up to it.
Okay.
Eric Keenlyside played Lance Kernoff, who was the father.
Okay,
The Catholic father. He's been in Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, the American version.
Okay.
Series of Unfortunate Events, Netflix version.
Okay, yeah.
Short Circuit 2.
Oh.
Final Destination 2.
Oh?
Dreamcatcher.
Huh?
And bear this one, Godzilla, the 2014 version.
Which one was the 2014?
This was the...
Was this Bryan Cranston?
Bryan Cranston's one.
Yeah.
Okay. So next is... So there's 4 quadruplets in this episode.
Presumably played by the same person.
They're all played by the same actress. You know her. You're going to like this. Emily Perkins. Who is Bridget in Ginger Snaps.
Oh, really?
So we've had both Ginger Snaps sisters in X-Files.
Yeah, it is Bridget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I thought, what are the chances, really, that they've both been in the X-Files at different points?
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought it, but yeah, I can see it now thinking about it. Yeah.
She's also Beverly Marsh in the It TV series, the young version.
Okay.
And we haven't seen anything else, but I thought, wow, that's kind of cool.
So the 1990 It we're talking about.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. We also have Glenn Morshover, who played Aaron Starkey.
Okay, that's the social worker.
That's a social worker, who's been in a lot of Star Trek. Because he was in Star Trek Generations, Next Generation, Voyager, and Enterprise.
Playing different people?
Completely different characters every time. Air Force One. He was in Godzilla, 1998.
Okay, yeah.
That's the
Matthew Broderick one.
Yes. He's also in The Core, The Men Who Stare at Goats, X-Men First Class. He's going to show up in Millennium, and he's in Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Ah.
But two stars from Ginger Snaps, and then two different people who've been in two different Godzilla films.
Yeah, I can see why that excited you.
I thought it was great.
Would you like to give us a rundown of this one?
I would. So, from Wikipedia. In Virginia, 16-year-old Dara Kernoff, a mentally and physically disabled girl who uses a wheelchair, somehow manages to leave her house in the middle of the night after her baptism. Her father, Lance, eventually finds her outside with her arms raised upwards towards a strange figure. Lightning flashes and the figure disappears. When Lance reaches Dara, he discovers she's dead and her eyes have been burned out. Scully is contacted by Father McHugh, who asks if she would be willing to assist the family in figuring out what happened. Scully visits the Kernoffs and learns that Dara was adopted. Given her severe spinal deformity, Scully is unable to explain how Dara walked, let alone got outside. Lance tells Scully that he saw a strange figure before her. He confides he thinks the mysterious figure was the devil. Meanwhile, Father Gregory visits a hospital to visit Dara's twin, Paula Kokolos, but he is stopped by a social worker named Aaron Starkey. Later that night, Paula dies mysteriously in the same circumstances when a man enters her room. Mulder soon learns that Paula and Dara were not twins, but in fact 2 of 4 quadruplets. The agents also learn that Father Gregory was hoping to adopt Paula, and they proceed to visit the priest. Gregory protests his innocence and was simply trying to protect Paula by taking her under his wing. While this is happening, a figure views the confrontation from a hidden location. And later, Scully then experiences a vision of her daughter Emily while performing an autopsy on Dara. Mulder learns the identity of another sister who is troubled and homeless. With Starkey's help, Mulder finds a girl in a rundown part of the city, but the figure from the beginning of the episode then kills her before Mulder can get to her. Mulder discovers Father Gregory at the scene and believes he is the perpetrator of the crime. Under questioning by Mulder and Scully, Gregory insists that he was attempting to ward off the devil, who was hoping to claim the girl's souls. He is adamant that the 4th and final sister must be located. Later, when the agents have left, Starkey enters and asks the whereabouts of this last girl. Gregory remains silent and soon begins to burn. That night, the figure from the beginning of the episode presents itself to Scully, revealing that it in fact is Seraph. The Seraph had fathered 4 Nephilim, the disabled quadruplets, and God sent the angel to Earth to return the girls to heaven. The angel is attempting to outmaneuver the devil, who hopes to use the girl's soul for his own nefarious plots. Scully and Starkey find the 4th girl, Roberta, at Gregory's church. However, Scully sees that Starkey has a horned shadow, revealing his true origins as the devil. Scully tries to help Roberta escape, but the women are confronted by the Seraph. Scully reluctantly lets go of Roberta's hand after seeing Emily in place of Roberta, and lets Roberta enter heaven.
Thank you, I think.
It's when you read out the summary, you go, the hell is going on with this episode?
I will say for that summary is you've missed a lot of the annoyance of the episode, because it's really the third part of the Emily trilogy, kind of showing Scully coming to terms with Emily's death.
That's true, and then we have the debate of whether you want to do Conspiracy Corner for this, given it kind of has... Oh, okay. But it kind of is.
Yeah, I think both... We can say about the Pine Bluff variants too, is they both tie in with the conspiracy, but they're really Monster of the Week episodes.
It's true. The summary is also... I missed out the bit on the summary where it says, reveals that Aaron Starkey is the devil, and it's kind of, that's going a bit far. We don't know he is the devil, we just know he's some kind
devil,
of...
maybe?
A devil.
Hey, I've still got no idea what the angel thing's supposed to be based on the Bible, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was the point when we were watching this episode where, for I think the first time, we realised that the Seraph is not Gregory and not the social worker, because we'd thought he was one of them.
I remembered it being the social worker, to be honest. I didn't remember the social worker actually being the devil. I thought Father Gregory was a normal human and the social worker was the Seraphim.
Yeah, I think that confuses it, because the Seraph kind of shows up as a normal person once, and he looks just enough like Gregory to throw you.
Yeah.
But he's not. He's someone completely different.
Yeah, I did remember that Father Gregory was just a person.
Yeah.
But I completely forgot there was a third entity, or didn't realise that on the first watch through.
Yeah. It does feel like this should be a follow-up to a different X-Files episode. Like, there should be some episode about the angel coming to Earth and fathering these children.
Yeah, or it ties in better with Revelations, which was the last time we saw Scully protecting a religious person.
I mean, I think we should link Revelations into this a bit more, given we kind of pretend the episode didn't happen, and it feels like it should be more significant, given...
Scully's the, night of the second coming.
Yeah, and given what Revelation set up, you'd think the Seraph might come to Scully directly and not do this convoluted. Father McHugh happens to be in the same parish as this grieving family, and thus means that he can ask Scully to get involved for no actual good reason.
I want to question as well. Father McHugh presumably is a Catholic priest because Scully is Catholic.
Yeah.
I think baptism's a big deal, particularly in the Catholic Church, because if you die and you haven't been baptized, you just can't get into heaven no matter how good you are.
Yeah.
So this devout family apparently waited 60 years to baptize Dara. Isn't that kind of the thing you do immediately? Especially if she's got such terrible kind of health problems that, maybe death would be a possibility for her?
I don't know. It does feel a bit weird. I mean, I think, on reflection, one of the biggest problems is, as much as the episode is trying to tease us, or at least sort of wrong-foot us with who the villain is.
Yeah.
Because we're definitely presented Father Gregory as the villain first, and Starkey kind of not.
Well, it explains it better later in the episode, but the first image you get of Father Gregory is an inverted crucifix.
Yeah.
Which, to most people, that makes you think of Satanism.
And that's exactly what this episode's going for, but they do actually stop and explain that, no, it's not actually... It doesn't necessarily mean that.
I found that kind of interesting, actually. I was reading up on it, but the Catholic Church actually has dozens of different crucifixes which have different meanings and purposes. It's the crucifix of St. Peter is just a particularly famous one because of that kind of starkly iconic Satanist image of the upside-down crucifix.
Yeah.
Which in Catholic terms doesn't mean that at all.
But I think things like The Exorcist do it all the time. In fact, I think the latest
You
Exorcist
often
did it.
see it. The famous image in a horror movie is a wall-mounted crucifix swinging upside down.
Yeah. Because they're always sort of nailed to the wall by the bottom of the cross for some reason, aren't they? And don't quite understand why you do that.
Yeah. But in reality, it was supposed to be a sign of humility. St. Peter was famously the one that denounced Christ and pretended that he didn't know him.
Yeah.
To escape persecution. So when it came for his crucifixion, he refused to be crucified in the same position as Christ because he didn't feel worthy of it, so was crucified upside down.
Yeah.
So, more it's a symbol of humility rather than a sign of the devil.
Yeah. And all that's fine. I mean, I think... So that's all effective. What I think I struggle with is I don't for a second understand why it's happening now. Because it's the whole... Okay, I get the whole... Seraph has to come and get rid of the Nephilim because they shouldn't exist.
But he's waited till they're 16.
Yeah, this is the problem I feel with it. It's a case of, you need to explain that. Why the delay? And also, why Aaron's taking so long to get there.
It's not something said in the episode, but should we say it is that they've come of age now, they're adults?
I can imagine you're going to have to go. That's the only way you can make it make sense.
There's no bigger crime than killing a child. Maybe even God thinks this.
Yeah.
Or even the fact that they were waiting for the last one to be baptised because she is killed the day after her baptism.
It's true.
So, he's trying to take their souls to heaven. By Catholic doctrine, she wouldn't have gone to heaven if she'd been killed prior to this.
It's very true. It does feel like, well, it's one of those whole, but you work for God. I mean, can God not override his own rules? I mean, surely this is because of his will, so... I
think you're missing the Lord works in mysterious ways.
I know, but that's a get-out clause for anything that does make sense, isn't it?
It's a great get-out clause for anything. Ours is the best of all possible worlds.
It's Deus Ex Machina. Let's not... The Greeks had this down hundreds of years ago.
We've also got some real confusion to this episode, and it's me splitting hairs as usual, as to what a seraphim actually is.
Yeah.
Because...
Bad CGI.
Yeah, or awful CGI in the case of this. But in the Bible, I think it's in the book of Ezekiel, it's actually the cherubim that have 4 faces.
Okay.
The seraphim are people-shaped.
Oh, okay.
Because you have this whole idea in biblical stories, and I'm not sure how much of this is actually in the Bible of himself, is that whatever a higher ranked angel is more than we puny humans can comprehend. Which we see in this episode of if anyone sees the seraphim in its full glory, they die.
Yeah.
Which I think the full glory is the get-out clause for why Scully doesn't die when she sees it.
Yeah, though she still gets to see a thing.
But the actual description of this thing, it's more like the creature you see in Revelations. I believe it's Revelations 4, where it describes 4 entities that sit in front of the throne of God. I do have the little passage somewhere. Sorry, I'm going from the God's Word translation of the Bible here, because it's the first one I found when I was searching for it. But it's, in front of the throne there was something like a sea of glass as clear as crystal. In the centre near the throne and around the throne were 4 living creatures covered with eyes in front and in back. The first living creature was like a lion, the second was like a young bull, the third had a face of a human, and the fourth was like a flying eagle. Each of the 4 living creatures had 6 wings and were covered with eyes inside and out. Without stopping night or day, they were singing. So, we've kind of gone for a weird Revelations sort of image of the thing where we're mashing up a seraphim, which is previously noted a people-shaped, with this kind of vision of the throne of God from Revelations.
It's very odd.
But it gives that weird effect of the cycling face, which apparently was a CGI effect so complicated that they only finished it within hours of this episode first airing.
I think it shows, because you think most people would look at it and say, you want to go back and try that again?
It's a really ugly effect, especially with the kind of bright rays of light behind it.
Yeah. I mean, I've never felt the X-Files religious episodes exactly work great, and this, I think, is the weakest one we've had so far.
I think Miracle Man's fine, but after that I would agree with you, it doesn't quite... And I think it's mainly in part the great switcheroo of their personalities. In any religious episode, you have Scully is suddenly an ardent believer and Mulder just dismisses everything off the bat, which is very unlike him.
Yeah, I mean, we also have that thing where Mulder's suddenly very knowledgeable about biblical stuff occasionally. Like, D. Hander was the one where he sort of does a whole load of scripture stuff to Bulldog Briscoe. And then the rest of the time, he doesn't, and then Scully has to feed him all the relevant details. No one can seem to quite agree on how much Mulder knows about this area. He certainly doesn't believe in any of it.
Yeah.
But I think the problem is, we've noted that when you do Scully's skepticism properly, she will offer a plausible, explicable reason for something happening. And when Mulder's a skeptic, he doesn't. Or, like, we've just come off of the whole thing that stemmed from Redux, where he's clinging to his whole the government did everything. And basically it was kind of fun because people were saying this makes less sense than Aliens. But he doesn't offer anything in this episode for how this death is happening.
It's just a blanket dismissal. He just says something like, religious people offer religious explanations to get away with atrocities. Mulder?
Yeah, but how do they do it? Because the best explanation anyone's got is lightning strike, but that doesn't match the physical evidence.
No. They can only go on this basis because of the fact her eyes have been burnt out, the damage to her eyes.
Yeah.
There is no other explanation about why you would find this girl who supposedly could not walk at all kneeling in a kind of supplanted prayer pose with her eyes burnt out in the middle of a street.
Yeah. And the few indoors as well, where, it's the middle of the day, there are no clouds in the sky. Lightning strike is almost impossible.
Well, I think with lightning wounds, like, we kind of got into DPO as well as there's an exit wound too.
Yes.
It's not just the fact that lightning struck you and you're electrocuted and there's no physical sign of this.
The damage is it going through you somewhere else.
Yes. So you would have an entry and an exit point, which, if we're saying the entry point is the eyes, there's no exit point, so this is inexplicable.
Yeah, well, this is why your plane being struck by lightning is generally not a bad thing. So
it's not grounded.
It's only if it strikes certain points of the plane you're in trouble.
What's the argument of why birds don't get electrocuted on telephone lines and things like that?
Exactly, because they're above the wire. If they were under the wire, they'd be in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a mess, because we've got religious weirdness, and we've also got the science doesn't check out either, because Scully's stuff may be wrong, but at least she had an explanation of what was going on. And Mulder just fails to provide one. Also, Mulder's lapsed into a really bad habit again.
Yeah.
Because it's just the whole, Mulder's off doing something else while Scully's investigating this case. What's Mulder doing? He's gone to a porn theatre.
Claiming he's after a lead.
Yeah, what is going on?
Apparently some of the Mulderisms in this episode, and people have started referring to David Duchovny's ad-libs as Mulderisms at this point. It's because they let him slip them in if they feel the plot's getting too dark.
Oh, okay.
So it's to add a bit of brevity, you have Mulder saying something dry and witty.
I think it's they probably should be more careful with that. I mean, yes, it does work in some times, but I think it was noted on Caesogony he was quipping in sort of really inappropriate points. This one, it still feels odd.
Yeah, it's just a strange episode, this one. It feels almost like it belongs in a different series. Like, I'd buy it as a Supernatural episode or something like that more.
Yeah, I can't help but think of Castiel to a point, but I'd also say it feels like, having only sort of very briefly scratched the surface of Millennium, it feels like it belongs in Millennium.
Yeah.
From what I know of Millennium, it feels like it would fit over there much better.
Yeah. I did read, I think it was Cinefestique at the time, wrote a rather scathing review of this episode, but they called it a bad Millennium episode.
Okay, so at least that tracks that.
It should be noted that there weren't really any positive reviews of this episode. The best people said, and it is a fair one, is Gillian Anderson does a fabulous job in it.
Oh, she does, but I think the highest point we'd expect her to.
Mm.
I'd say one of the things that gets me story-wise is it's another one where you have physical evidence and nothing comes of it. Because Scully has a corpse with, the extra fingers and extra toes. Mm. Or is it extra fingers? I don't know if they do have extra toes.
Yes, they do. You see when...
It's
the one shot when Dara stands up.
Yeah. And the wing points on their shoulders. And there's like some structure underneath that. It's a case of, Scully, you've got literal x-rays and scientific evidence of angels.
Well, it's not angels, it's a bone deformity.
It's a bone deformity, but the implication is clear.
Yeah. Polydactylism, multiple fingers and toes, is a medical condition.
It is. The shoulder thing isn't, though.
The shoulder thing is a bit weird. She thinks at first it's some kind of tumorous growth,
yeah.
But then she sees the kind of structure along the girl's back. You should probably note that wings don't really work that way. They won't come out of the tops of your shoulders like that.
Well, I was thinking that too, but then I was also going to say, we're getting into heavy supernatural stuff. You don't have to obey biology if you're going into angelic beings, aren't you?
But its wings, when you see its wings behind it, come from its back, not its shoulders.
So yeah, what's going on there? I don't know at all. It's a very strange thing. We could talk about the thing that the synopsis kind of missed out because it feels superfluous, but the episode structure around it is, it's all done in retrospect, and I think you found out it was done late in the day.
Yeah, it was watching back the first cut of the episode, Carter and Shaban thought there was something missing, so they added this kind of bookending bit with Scully in a confessional.
Yeah, and I think I can understand why they do it for the ultimate conclusion and for Gillian Anderson to act her heart out, which is good. At the same time, they repeat way too much information in that wraparound that then immediately depicted in the flashback bits, don't they? Because it's like Scully will say something and then Mulder will say it to Scully in the flashback.
I will say it's the thing I liked about the episode is the entire intro, though, because I think it sets a good mystery.
Yes.
I like the opening with Scully coming to the confessional and wanting to confess how she, I believe she puts it like, I let an innocent girl die.
Yeah, but you can't resolve it.
And then it immediately cuts to that rather creepy scene of Dara leaving her bed and bowing to something in the rain in the street, and her father running out and finding her dead body.
Yeah.
It's a really creepy, effective start, but then everything's downhill from there.
Yeah, and I feel that as you said, that thing is great. Doesn't actually represent the rest of the episode.
Mm.
It's the whole thing kind of a letdown. It's like one of those women's magazine stories, like The Day My Leg Dropped Off, and you read the story and it was amputated by a doctor.
Yeah.
This is just straight up lying. What are you doing? So yeah, I felt that was an odd choice. Also, and I do get to a point where Scully feels comfortable at the same time. This got thoroughly explained to you that this has to happen.
I also want... Scully is the believer in this episode, and Scully believes that's an angel come for the child.
So why
why do you think you can fight an angel?
Yeah, and why do you want to? They're meant to be on you. You're meant to be on their side. I
think it's just that question of we already said the Lord moves in mysterious ways, but it's still hard to get in your head of why the Lord would kill a 16-year-old girl.
Yeah,
a disabled 16-year-old girl as well, as note.
Well, I suppose that's the other thing of surely Catholics don't go for the rapture, do they? That's actually a different denomination does the rapture.
I don't think it's Roman Catholic, no.
It doesn't really matter which one does it, but given you've got an omniscient God, you'd think he could do something more graceful than murdering people with as dramatically as the Seraphim does.
The Lord moves in mysterious ways.
Well, yes, but...
I thought there was an interesting point with regards to deaths in it, and this one was raised by Robert Sherman and Lars Pearson, who wrote a book called Wanting to Believe, A Critical Guide to the X-Files, Millennium and the Lone Gunman, which I keep mentioning them, but I can never just fix that name in my head, so I wrote it down this time of their publication. But they write really good, fair reviews of episodes, I find, of the old ones. But this one, again, like Cinefastique, they hated it. It was one of their lower-ranked episodes. But one of their comments are, and I'm sure it's not what they were going for the episode, but you can easily read it in, is you can't get the escape past the fact that God wants for disabled girls to die because they have no right to live.
Yeah, it's hard not to sort of see that.
And uncomfortable, and I know the whole rationale is they are half human, half angel. That's what a Nephilim is. But it's the fact that, this union should not exist. It's, why are we punishing? I guess by Catholic sense, we're not punishing them because we're taking them up to heaven and it's great and nice. But essentially, we are murdering 4 disabled children when it's all that Seraphim that's killing some fault.
Yes.
He has allowed this to happen.
Yeah, and as much as we've got that not necessarily biblical story, the apocryphal story of why the Nephilim exist.
I'm not sure if that's a real one or not. I've heard Nephilim as a concept before, but I don't know if this is an actual biblical concept or one of these things that was added later.
Well, he does explicitly say it's not actually in the Bible, so it sounded like it's one of the apocrypha.
Yeah.
And that was fascinating to me, that how we deem canon these days is basically refers to the decision of what went into the Bible.
Well, it's like the hierarchy of angels is something that's not actually in the Bible. You have terms like cherubim and seraphim thrown around in Bible translations, but that idea of angels having a hierarchy is something that came much later.
Yeah, it's like the 7 deadly sins is not part of the Bible, which always throws people.
Yeah.
But one thing we haven't really touched on him is Aaron Starkey. I don't understand this guy at all. I mean, after Revelation, I don't understand why it's just another person like him who is... I don't think we never got to the bottom of quite what he was, I don't think. If he was just a human or he was possessed by a demon, if he was a devil, what his whole deal was.
The only indication you got was a throwaway comment about the devil would use the Nephilim's power for bad things, and then that image Scully sees of his shadow with horns.
Yeah. Oh, no, I meant the guy in Revelations.
Guy in Revelations.
The businessman.
Oh, the one that's killing stigmatics.
Yeah, because he went to Jerusalem and came back with Jerusalem syndrome. Well, that was Mulder's idea, wasn't it?
Yeah. But that was Mulder's idea, and he's always wrong in religious episodes.
Yeah, but there wasn't the impression of that in this episode. It was like Aaron Starkey has a devil shadow for reasons. One of those whole, why would this be the case? How are you doing this? Why are you doing this?
I've increasingly found myself saying I wouldn't want to rewrite this episode, but could we not have brought back Mrs Paddock?
For example, yeah, we have had other demonic creatures.
It's always been questionable whether Miss Paddock is a demon or a devil.
Yeah.
But at the same time, she would fulfill the same role, and it would have been nice to have Mrs Paddock back.
Yeah, or even bring the guy back from Revelations. I mean, just have him back inexplicably.
Even though he fell into that paper mulcher.
Yeah, we've got a supernatural series. We can totally pull this kind of stuff off.
Mm.
But no. I suppose the last thing we could talk about, though, is Emily, and we thought Emily was long gone, but no, she is with the folding chair just to go, haha, you thought you were rid of me.
It's not handled terribly well, but I do like the idea of giving Scully closure and having Scully actually process her death.
Yes, although I would have argued she kind of did that at the end of Emily anyway, I thought.
I think it's more getting the idea of you wouldn't process something like that.
Well, maybe not.
I know everything was so fast in Emily, and we've critiqued that already. I won't go into it again. But at the same time, the death of a child is a huge thing and not something you should get over in 4 minutes of episode.
True. I think the problem is it feels tacked onto an episode where it wasn't meant to be. This feels like another, like the framing device. I think this was added on late on. This was not part of the original concept at all. Given that the story comes from these two who haven't done an X-Files episode before, and Spontness and Shaban have presumably said, oh, we can do something with Emily in this.
Mm.
The actress hasn't aged that much. We can get away with claiming she's still the same age.
Yeah.
It feels like you should have had an episode fixated on Emily if you wanted to actually do the closure bit and not tag it onto this.
I thought there was a lack of sensitivity from Father McKeown there as well. It's, hey, Scully, you've just recently lost your daughter. Would you like to go and talk to these people who've recently lost their daughter?
Yeah. The other thing, though, is it feels odd to have such a religious-centric episode and crash Emily into it, given Emily is so wide into the conspiracy that two things feel completely at odds with each other. You don't normally ever tie things together like this. I mean, the most we've had is One Breath, where the nurse is a very ambiguous quantity.
I think the reading of it is the nurse is her guardian angel.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we don't know what this entity is at all.
No, and we've left it very purposely very vague.
And it's certainly not a burning, winged, lion-faced thing like we see in this episode.
Exactly. Well, that strikes me as the other thing is, had that nurse come back as the Seraph, yeah, I'd have that would have felt more graceful because that actually is keeping in line with Dwayne Barry. I think we keep offering other alternatives.
There's an episode of Supernatural where they encounter an archangel, which I will go up. In our hierarchy of angels, seraphim are the most powerful, supposedly. Archangels are actually very low down.
Yeah, they're second rankers.
Yeah, that's considered like the lowest rank a person can see and not die.
Yeah.
Because, the Archangel Gabriel says, "Be thou not afraid," inferring that he is horrifying when he first appears. But in the episode of Supernatural, you never actually see it, but when it appears, essentially there's blinding light and the entire building is shaking around them and stuff like that. So, that's your implication of there is something huge and terrible just outside.
Yeah.
Which is a lot more effective than what we see in this.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I think Supernatural has the right thing. And I do think, just rather than Aaron Starkey, we've had multiple devil candidates. Bring one of them back. Link it together. We would not complain.
I don't think he's scary enough, Starkey. The devil has to be terrifying.
Yeah, and also he doesn't do anything. It's like one scene where he kills Gregory and then the rest of the time he just stands on. Like, refusing to come into the church, I understand why he doesn't. At the same time, that makes you feel really weak because you're standing at the doorway shouting at Scully.
There was a lot of criticism of this episode for reverse religious iconography. Some of it I think works well, but it's becomes, when you start noticing it, every single scene has a cross in the background somewhere, be it like window frame or a telegraph pole or anything else.
Scully's necklace.
Yeah, there are so many just background crosses, background stained glass windows, that sort of thing. And it is a bit OTT.
Yeah. Ugh. I don't like this episode.
No, me neither.
Do you want to get out of here, or do you have anything else to say on this one?
No, I don't really think there's much to say in this one. It's more of the things we've criticised a lot, especially recently, of Scully seeming oddly vulnerable, whereas Mulder is just an utter git.
Yes.
Utter insensitive git the entire time.
Again.
There's an amazing bit in the episode even where he says that Scully needs to come off the case because she's compromised, and we compare Demons where he's potentially had an aneurysm and he's insisting to be a part of this case in which he's been indicted for murder.
Yeah, I'd also point Mind's Eye as one, and Oubliette where he was horribly emotionally compromised the entire time, and no one suggested he recuse himself.
Well, they did, but he just dismissed it and kept going. It's the shoes on another foot when it's Scully that's compromised and he's insistent she plays it by the book.
Yeah, just... Ugh.
I find Mulder, when he's like this, his most tiresome.
I think there's been a lot of the seasons with Mulder as tiresome.
Yeah, I think we need to get him back as a believer as fast as possible.
Well, he is back as a believer, but...
Ish.
Well, mostly. As far as we're aware, he's back as a believer. We haven't seen him go into a conspiracy episode again yet. Soon.
Mm.
But so we go somewhere scenic. It's kind of somewhere with pine trees. I don't know if there's pines there, but yeah, it sounds like it should be.
Pines in a bluff, for example.
Yeah. Kind of a Mason. No, that's Blake Mason. The Pine Bluff Variant. Okay. I don't know how to segue into this.
No, it was a noble attempt.
Thank you. Second episode then is The Pine Bluff Variant, directed by Rob Bowman, written by John Shaban. Shaban! We get rid of Howard Gordon and we just get old John Shaban all the time after that. I don't know. It's weird, isn't it? It's all picking up on which writers you all go, oh no.
Be fair, you haven't even got to the episode yet.
That's true. Broadcast on the 3rd of May 1998. Guest stars, there is, of course, the incomparable Daniel von Bargen, who played Jacob Healy. He was, of course, Kruger in Seinfeld. He's also in Silence of the Lambs, Basic Instinct, RoboCop 3, Philadelphia, Broken Arrow, Thinner, and Oh Brother Where Art Thou.
He was in Thinner, yeah.
And he's the sheriff in Oh Brother Where Art Thou, the one who's chasing them.
Oh yeah, of course he is.
Yeah, but I didn't realise at all because he wears sunglasses and a hat the entire time. He goes, oh yeah, it is him, isn't it?
Disguise.
Yeah. We also have Sam Anderson, who played Lemus, who's the government guy. Who's in Airplane 2, Critters 2, Forrest Gump, Origin of Evil.
Oh yeah.
Star Trek Next Generation. He was in the Stand TV series, the first one, because there's been a more recent one, Millennium, and Rugrats.
Aww.
And last, we have Ket Turton as Brit, who was in Blade Trinity, Millennium, and you'll like this one, Kingdom Hospital as Antibus.
He Yantivus!
Yantivus!
Ah, Kingdom Hospital's great.
Kingdom Hospital is confusing.
And great.
Okay.
Just wait till we get to Things Are Getting Stranger, Kingdom Hospital podcast, and we'll be great.
So would you like to give us a synopsis for the Pine Bluff variant?
Yep, sure. We open this time on an FBI sting, where Mulder, Scully and Skinner, as well as several other FBI agents, all hide in a park in Washington trying to catch a terrorist called Jacob Haley, who's the second in command of an anti-government militia group that are known as the New Spartans. As the agents manage to corner Haley, Haley hands an envelope to another man before running away. Mulder gives chase, but Haley somehow evades capture. The agents discover the flesh of the man who was handed the envelope is being eaten away by an unknown toxin, and Scully, as she kind of pursues through the trees, sees what she believes is Mulder letting Haley actually get away. An angry Scully questions Mulder about how it happened, but he dodges her queries and is strangely not forthcoming about how Haley could have got away. At a later meeting, which is held by Skinner and a US attorney called Lamus, Skinner explains that Haley and the other leader of the New Spartans, a man called August Bremer, are currently involved in an internal power struggle. They also discuss at this meeting the nature of the flesh-eating bacterium, and Scully reveals that it was some kind of unknown biological agent that the man who died was only recently exposed to, presumably by Haley. Scully follows Mulder and sees him meeting with Haley once again, confirming her suspicions that Mulder is somehow involved with this terrorist cell. However, when she tries to pursue them, she is surrounded by men in black and brought before Skinner and Lamus. They reveal to her that Mulder is actually an undercover agent. This is so deep cover, he's been told not to even share it with her, as they are trying to get close to Haley by having Mulder infiltrate the group. Mulder is taken to the hideout of the New Spartans while blindfolded and accused of being a government mole. He's tortured, having his finger broken by Haley's heavy, until he claims that the group has been infiltrated, but it's by a different spy. Haley believes him. Meanwhile, in Middlefield, Ohio, we see Bremer entering a movie theatre and exposing the patrons there to the biological evidence, killing everyone inside except for 2 boys who sneak in late to see the gory scene. On investigating this, Scully is confused as to how the contagion was spread, as it's clearly not airborne if there were 2 survivors. Scully later meets Mulder at his apartment, but unbeknownst to him, their conversation, about Mulder being a spy, is being recorded outside by Bremer. Mulder feeds back to the FBI task force that the New Spartans are planning a bank heist. In the meantime, Scully researches the biological weapon further and discovers that it was engineered originally by the US government, not the Russians as was first believed, and it's spread on contact. She realises that Haley is not intending to steal money to finance his arms race from the bank, but instead is planning to contaminate the money there, thereby spreading this deadly bacterial infection to millions of people across the country. She also concludes that this is potentially also a trap intended to kill Mulder. Following this fake robbery, Bremer publicly accuses Mulder of being the mole. Haley, however, ardently supports Mulder, claiming Bremer is the real mole. Bremer supports his argument by playing back the tape of Mulder and Scully that he made earlier. Now in full power, having proven that Haley is compromised, Bremer gives Haley the chance to peacefully leave the group, giving him a set of car keys. Haley agrees and runs away. Bremer, along with Haley's previous heavy, takes Mulder to a desolate area where it is implied they are going to shoot him. However, Bremer instead kills the heavy and lets Mulder go, telling him there is a car waiting for him over the ridge. Mulder arrives at the bank to find that Scully has managed to have it quarantined in time before anyone could touch the money. The contaminated money has been taken away and supposedly disposed of. They also confront Lamus, voicing their suspicions that the entire case was actually just a covert government bioweapon test. Lamus responds that it is his job to protect the public from the truth. In the final scene of the episode, we see Haley's car slowly coming to a stop. The car keys that he had been given were contaminated with the bioweapon.
Thank you. This is a weird episode, I feel.
I like it.
Oh, well, yeah, it's quite effective. At the same time, you sort of poke at it and go, what? Like,
You say that about every episode.
Not in a, well, okay, I do say about every episode. But it's things like I think you put it at the time, is if you told Scully at the start that Mulder was in deep cover, she wouldn't have got paranoid and you wouldn't have actually risked the discovery that you did.
It's a common theme that we see in the X-Files, is giving them a reason to be suspicious of each other.
Yeah.
It's like what we saw in Wet Wired.
Yeah, although this one is it's really sort of awkward how it's come into being, because if, Skinner had just said, right, Scully, you also want a secrecy on this, Mulder's going into deep cover, play along, then, you wouldn't have actually compromised him in the way that you did. Then again, the last reveal that the guy spying on Mulder was actually on his side the entire time, and this guy go ahead and killed all those people in Ohio.
Well, it's because it is a government weapons test.
Yeah. Although
he's part of the conspiracy.
Oh, yeah. But let's focus on the Ohio thing, because how did that bit work again? Because they sort of say it's something everyone's touched, so they think it's the ticket stub. And then you said, and Scully just picks up the ticket stub.
With no gloves on.
With no gloves on.
Because this is Scully and we can't have proper contamination procedure.
But it's not the chicken stuff. It's not chicken stuff.
Luckily
it's not
for her,
stuff. Yeah.
otherwise she would have been dead before she got out the door.
But we never actually resolve what it was. Because he just walks in with an aerosol can, which you said looks really dodgy, really kind of, that feels risky.
I don't think it's contamination. In my head, and it's a stupid analogy to make, it's the Resident Evil film, where whenever we're transporting these canisters of the T-virus, we have it in padded lead-lined cases.
Yeah.
To have it a deadly kind of, well, it's a strep virus, it's necrotizing fasciitis.
Yeah.
In a little kind of aerosol, like shaving foam can.
Yeah.
At his hip. Just feels like anyone knocks you and everybody dies.
Yeah. But how did it spread to everyone in the city? Did he actually go around and just spray it on their faces or something?
My thought when we were watching it was the popcorn is the obvious thing, but...
Then he'd need to go back and sort of do it to the popcorn, and then the next wave of people have to come in to buy the popcorn.
From what I read online, and I didn't get it from the episode admittedly, it's the money again in the till that he has contaminated. So it's when the usherette's giving people change and stuff like that. I have a few problems I would like to do with this.
Well, yeah. How do you know that? So no one paid with the exact money, so that someone didn't get changed, so they're left in the theatre going, what the hell is going on?
Okay, my criticisms, I must admit I didn't think of that one, but good call. In the park, it acts so quickly, so if the usherette is the one handing out money, she should drop dead very fast.
Yep, before it can spread to everyone else.
And then you would see the melting corpse in the counter and might not touch it.
Well, also, she's there behind the concession stands, which implies it's that screening of the film he was going into, which they said was almost finished.
Also, when we see both, I want to call him Kruger, but it's not him, Haley.
Yeah.
Haley and the first guy, it's actually relatively slow, this thing eating away at them.
Yeah.
But everybody in the theatre has died in their seats.
They haven't moved or panicked.
They haven't moved, they haven't fallen to the floor or anything like that. My third one is, the projectionist dies.
Yes, which is
inexplicable. Why has he touched anything in the cinema?
Yeah, I think it's an image John Spanner had in his head, without thinking how you get...
I think you need the realisation of the usherettes touch the popcorn, the people in the theatre are all holding popcorn buckets.
Yeah.
You could have had just a single shot of the projectionist just putting his hand into the popcorn machine or something in the lobby and taking a handful.
Yeah, just walking through a scene
and then you would have had at least a connecting thing of all of them touching something similar.
Yeah. But I think, as you said, it's the inconsistency with reaction time is just all over the shop, depending where in the episode you've fallen.
It's just to make this incredible shot, and it shows that the X-Files is still better at practical effects than it is at CGI. Because that grisly scene where the two boys sneak into the movie, which is Die Hard 3, should we know, a movie about a bank heist.
Yep.
But they turn around and just see the kind of several bloodied corpses sat behind them. It's a great shot.
Oh, yeah. And I get the impression that feels like that was the first inkling of the episode, and the rest of it was built around that.
It should be noted, if you search for this episode, that shot of the corpses in the cinema is always the one that comes up. But, it's iconic.
Yeah, but I would venture the opinion that was what John Shabana had as a starting point, and the rest of it's to get to that point without actually really reconciling how you got there in a way that makes sense. To focus on the aerosol a bit, because the bank heist itself, it really should have been obvious to Mulder that they weren't after money. Given all the rest of the stuff that would build up to it, the fact that you see him spraying their money with the aerosol can. And it's very reminiscent of like The Dark Knight, which would become many years later with the radioactive
bills. Yeah.
And I always like that scene where basically the Joker has stolen literally everything else and left them in a little neat pile instead.
Yeah.
But you see him spraying down the money in one of the cages, and all he's just doing is putting his glove hand over his mouth as he's doing it, and is that effective enough? Because it's contact with you, it's not inhaling it.
But if you inhale it, those droplets would be coming into contact with you.
But you think you'd have more safeguards than just putting a hand over your mouth, wouldn't you? I know he's wearing a mask at the time, but there's like eye holes in the mask. It feels really unclear. What also I would say as well is we can't trust Lemus as far as we can throw him. But he does say at the end there was no trace of the biological agent on the bills that have been destroyed anyway. So we don't know if that bank heist even had him taking the stuff in there.
I think Lemus is lying.
I think he is, but there is also a possibility that this was a front for Mulder as well, and that heist put no one at risk at all.
Yeah.
Except for the one guy they shot. And we can put to one side how did Mulder not get fired this week, because he's undercover, you're allowed to do this kind of thing. How did Mulder not give himself away by waiting literally 5 minutes to shoot someone and say, oh, no, you're going to be traced, I'll do it instead? Why does he have the traceable gun? What kind of militia group are you?
I mean, I didn't even recognise it as a gun. When they passed it to him in the car, I thought they were giving him a canister of the stuff.
That would make more sense.
Because it is a really fake-looking gun. I don't know if that is a legitimate gun design, but with that thick plastic barrel to it.
Yeah. It's probably not fair to just compare it to The Dark Knight with its heist scenes, but they're really dramatic, really kind of intense scenes, and lots of quick stuff happening, going on, and there's a palpable threat. And there's that whole slow reveal of who the Joker is in this scene. Because you've got no idea at all that who all these masked people are. And you look at the X-Files scene, and I know it came much earlier, but there's so much standing around in it, isn't there?
I do think it's one of the weaker parts of the episode, because on the whole, the thing I like about this episode is how well it does carry its tension.
Yeah.
Because any scene with Mulder and the terrorist group, who you know have this deadly bioweapon, you're not sure where it's going.
Yes.
Particularly the torture scene where they're breaking his fingers.
Yeah, although I would say on that bit, because I was going to call him Kruger, because we call him Kruger all the way through, because...
I've written him as Kruger all through my notes. I never caught his name, to be honest.
So did I. Haley. Haley pulls out the aerosol can at one point and points at Mulder. And he's not wearing gloves or a respirator or anything like that. And I can't help but equate this to Good Omens. With the whole, when Crowley's got the holy water, and he does all the precautions with it, and get the plant mister and tries to bluff that it's in there.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work because a droplet goes onto his finger and he's collapsed in agony.
Yeah.
You ever use an aerosol can? Because usually, no matter what your best effort, some of it will catch and spray back onto you, some of it will start condensing and drip off the can.
Yeah.
Doing this with your bare hands is the most stupid thing you could possibly do with streptococcus like this. What are you doing, Kruger? And also the fact that he doesn't think when he gives him the wallet and says, get out of here, I don't want to see you again. Do you not want to say, hang on a minute? I mean, admittedly, he's already dead because he's put it on his top of his head. But I think as soon as you saw him do it, it's a case of, well, he's dead, isn't he?
You wouldn't touch anything that these people gave to you.
No, it's really... It feels...
I thought much the same thing when they hand Mulder his mask. You'd be a bit wary about this.
Yeah, it's just... No one seems to be thinking it through. And the other thing I suppose about the Masterman guy is he just sort of just wanders around with it, and you don't get any sense of how he's controlling it. Is he like disinfecting his hands at point? Is there a disinfectant that will kill this thing? Is it just going to laugh at, most alcohol wipes and things?
It could be that there is actually a vaccine for it or something like that, because he is working for, it's not the CDC, whatever good government body this is.
Yeah.
So maybe he has been vaccinated and it just isn't dangerous to him.
Yeah. In scientific terms, it would be worth noting that at some point, I don't know how fast this actually works in a biological sense, you would get bacteriophages that can kill off this streptococcus, because that's how bacteriophages work.
Strep is a terrifying thing, because, strep is one of the most common bacterium. It's the sore throat bacteria.
Yeah, and it generally doesn't hurt you because it's...
But, in certain circumstances, it can also become a deadly flesh-eating disease that can be very quickly fatal.
Yeah. So, and that, I like it all as a biological sense, and I like the conspiracy arc we've got to this of, this isn't Russian-made at all, this is domestic. They were meant to have stopped this many decades ago, and they haven't. Of course they haven't, this is the US government.
I did some research, actually. The Pine Bluff Arsenal is a real place. It was one of only 9 sites in America where they did store chemical weapons. From World War II, I think, up until it was decommissioned in 2010.
Oh wow, so still even at this point in time.
So it was still even there. in the process of decommissioning it, because, you can't get rid of all this stuff quickly.
Yeah.
But I think you could have a good conspiracy about how this was all a cover-up and actually this was still doing, because that's why this is the Pine Bluff variant, specifically that bioweapon is the Pine Bluff variant of the episode. It is the Pine Bluff variant of Streptococcus.
And that's good. I mean, I do get the government cover-up feels kind of weird to actually involve Mulder in this at all. I mean, because I think I commented partway through, hey Mulder, remember F. Emasculata when you were saying the people need to know the truth in this one? You've completely bought into the whole we must keep this secret from everyone. We're also going to have to say, remember in Patient X we said, how have you not been fired for this, Mulder? Because it turns out, or it's very much implied, that your government direction at that same alien abduction conference is how you got landed with the terrorists.
Yeah, I've never noticed that before, but you can totally read in, at least it's some similar conference he's been, if not the one in Patient X, but particularly when they mentioned that they were attracted by how anti-government he is, it makes you think it's that one.
Yeah, you'd have to wonder why this terrorist group was anywhere near the UFO conference.
To be fair, it's not. They specifically say it was Bremer that noticed, and Bremer's the mole.
Oh, okay.
So it's more the government using Mulder. And I think potentially hoping Mulder's going to be killed off over the course of this.
Yeah, so it's kind of odd then he lets him go, because there isn't really a good explanation for why Mulder lives through this episode.
No. Given
the level of cover-up they seem to be going for, he should be a sacrificial pawn. I think possibly needed to lean into the conspiracy a bit more. We know Cancerman's alive, but not and able to influence to a certain degree. I think we needed an implication that he was intervening, or well-manicured man, someone.
Yeah, like back in the days when Deep Throat wouldn't let anyone touch Mulder.
Yeah, Marita, we know, as far as we know, is out for the count at the moment. We need an implication of why Mulder survived this.
Even Senator Matthews pulling his weight for once and kind of protecting Mulder.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things the episode's missing, given you have inadvertently tied into the conspiracy again, even though it basically doesn't count.
I think it is technically a conspiracy episode, but it has more of a feel of a better written version of F. Emasculata, like you say.
Yeah.
It's F. Emasculata, but with a stronger government tie-in than F. Emasculata had. Because it's the same idea of secretly testing a weapon. In F. Emasculata, it was doing it in a prison because nobody would care.
Yeah.
In this one, it's framing it like a terror attack because everyone's very afraid of that and no one will ask too many questions.
Yeah, and last time we had the cigarette smoking man around to actually help with that. Both episodes, we do have Scully's really lax biohazard conservation practices.
I'm surprised she didn't pick up that ticket and lick it, to be honest, from where we were going in this. Well, she is told that there's nothing airborne by the guy on the door, so fair enough. I think I still might wear a mask to be on the safe side.
And not touch anything.
Yeah, touching things is another matter. It's like, it's not airborne. So what could be the contaminant? Oh, this ticket right here that I've picked up with my bare hands.
It's either contact or consumption. You don't have a lot of options.
And then she kind of, you have the guy later in the lab saying, oh yeah, it wasn't the ticket. It's like, well, that's lucky.
Yeah. Can you let us in on what it was? I mean, I know we just covered this, but that's a seriously weird sticking point.
No, I'm not convinced it does say it in the episode, but when I was reading people's kind of feedback and the criticisms of this episode at the time, someone mentioned in one of them that it was money. So I don't know if that's somebody who's read the script or if it is mentioned somewhere and I just didn't notice it.
Yeah. I mean, later, yes, it definitely is money. And it makes sense as money, but It
would make sense, I guess, because we see him preparing this aerosol at the counter and he could reach the till from there.
Yeah.
That he sprayed the money in the till.
I think the problem with the framing device, ultimately, is where you find the girl from the cinema. Because she's behind the counter, which gives the implication that she's gone back to get the popcorn and come back to the desk again and then died there.
Yeah.
And what you needed to do is make clear that the showing of Died with a Vengeance that the two teens walk into is the next one.
Yeah.
So while she's gone to get popcorn, he's gone into the ticket booth and sprayed down her entire till.
Yeah.
And then it's been the next showing where it's kicked off and everything.
Yeah.
Then we still run into your problem, though, of the time frame of this doesn't make sense because she's going to succumb so fast.
It could be a dosage thing and they gave the first guy a more concentrated dose of this, but we've got no way of knowing that.
No, and also by implication, they sprayed the contents of whatever was in the envelope he pulled out is the only way that he can have died and Kruger panicked and run.
Kruger was wearing gloves, I think, in that scene.
But he looked shocked. He did actually seem surprised. And as much as he was trying to attract attention, he looked confused when the guy started convulsing.
Yeah.
I get the impression he did not expect that to happen.
Okay.
Well, I could be wrong on that, because there's a whole level of paranoia and goings on. And that's reminded me of one thing I didn't get at all, is Scully trails after Mulder, and Mulder goes to that motel.
Yes.
And Scully trails him there, and then Scully gets another room, goes to the desk and complains that someone's been in her room, and then goes outside to see Mulder leaving with Kruger.
Yeah.
What was that about?
That's a good point.
What the hell was that?
I can't remember the name of that motel, but it was another one that was lost on me, because it's actually named after a famous Secretary of State who was arrested and convicted of being a traitor and later exonerated.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's supposed to be feeding into, making us realise that Mulder is not actually a traitor and things. I can't really put a finger on why I like this one, because it's not as clear-cut as some of the other ones I really enjoy. But I just think it's a fast pace, it's intense, it's an exciting episode. And I do like watching this one a lot. Kruger is also a great character because he's very unpredictable.
Yes.
Calling him Kruger and Haley. Haley is a great character because he's so unpredictable.
I think he's one of these people who he's definitely one who can do comedy and serious very well. And I think it's because he can deadpan really well.
Yeah, he deadpans very well as Kruger in Seinfeld, as we've said. That's his memorable role for me. But he's also scary in this.
Yes.
He's very intense. You're not sure what he's going to do at any point in it. Because you've got this guy who's very violent, very paranoid, very unpredictable.
And also, I kind of liked him by the end. Feels kind of nice he's actually on Mulder's side when it comes down to it.
Yeah.
After everything else, and the look of betrayal when he's revealed that, Mulder's been on the take the entire time.
Yeah.
I do like the episode. It's just, I feel there are structural and plot weaknesses to it that could have been fixed.
And then, if they had been, it would have been a great episode.
Yeah, and as it is, it's a really bumpy ride. That it was not insurmountable. I mean, I love little tiny details like when you see that Bremer, he's using the laser microphone thing through his window, and you can see like all the X's that have been superimposed onto each other, where you sort of keep taping the X onto the window.
Yeah.
I like that kind of detail. I mean, to be fair, I don't know why that's still there, given I'm pretty sure Scully was shot at through that same pane of glass, and Mulder, why would you put the X's back on there, given X has been dead a while now?
It's always one of those episodes, I always remember enjoying Pine Bluff Variant. I'm always quite happy when it comes around. And I think your criticisms are fair, but I still really enjoy watching it.
Yeah,
I think it's a good episode, it's got a good guest cast. It's Mulder and Scully both have stuff to do within the episode.
Yeah, I think my biggest complaint, other than some of the things not making sense, is I think the heist needed to be redone or just scrapped entirely.
Made a bit more exciting.
Yeah, it's not intense enough. It eats up too much time and not actually that much happens during it. Because I think it's Mulder standing around for so long not shooting someone he's been told to shoot.
Yeah, I suppose in turn that makes our final showdown a bit rushed.
Yeah, because it's very much a case of, when Mulder, Bremer, and the other guy walk out into Haley. What? No, not Haley. The
Gimp.
Gimp guy.
Yeah.
Walk out.
Sorry, I was calling the heavy in mind because it felt artless. He
calls him the Gimp.
I think he's supposed to be a reference to the Gimp in Pulp Fiction.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, Mulder just keeps referring to him as the Gimp for no good reason in this episode.
But it's when the three of them walk out alone, it's a case of, and sort of to execute him, you go, there is only one way this can possibly go, given the FBI support are too far distant, because Lama said no support. So one of them's going to shoot the other, and Mulder's going to be turned free. It's like, there was no tension to that scene, because we know David Duchovny cannot die in this episode.
Yeah, it's one of those things when you're watching it and you're not sure exactly how he can survive it either.
But there's only one way it possibly work.
Well, it's twofold. It's Bremer is on his side.
Yeah, or the Gimp
Or Scully's going to pop up and shoot them.
Or the Gimp could be.
Yeah,
the Gimp could be a deep cover other agent.
The Gimp could be the deep cover agent.
One of the people has to intervene, or an external force has to come in and intervene. It's like Marita swinging in with a shotgun would have actually been kind of cool. Out of character, but...
Marita actually doing something for once.
I know. Amazing, really. Again, I think it's probably the best John Shaban episode we've had.
Yeah, I think that's fair. John Shaban is variable. I've enjoyed some of his other episodes too. It's just unfortunate that he's also done some of my least favourite ones so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's inherited the Howard Gordon thing of whenever his name goes, you go, oh...
But this one's fine.
This one is fine. But you don't know that. I mean, Howard Gordon also wrote fine episodes.
True.
We liked Fallen Angel quite a lot.
Yeah, Fallen Angel is a great episode.
Exactly. And Conduit could have been better, but it's still hilarious that Morgan and Wong didn't watch Conduit. They just contradicted half of it. Do we have anything else for this episode?
No, I think we've covered everything. We were quite thorough there.
We were quite thorough. Okay. Next week, we are at the end of season 5.
Hooray!
Where we have Follow Adieu and The End.
Yay!
But basically, this is the set. Finally, we're actually in the rundown to the film.
Yep.
In the meantime, if you'd like to get hold of us, our email address is thingsargettingstrange42@gmail.com.
You can also find us on social media, and do hook me up if you want me to promote any of your X-Files stuff at the start of this show, be it fan events, competitions, cool art installations you've got on the go, whatever you fancy. You can find us on Twitter and Tumblr at @GetStrange42. You can find us on Mastodon at GetStrange42@universedon.com, or on Facebook, where you can find us by searching for Things Are Getting Strange and X-Files Rewatch podcast. Additionally, if you're not sick of my voice yet, I also stream 3 times a week on Twitch TV. That's Mondays and Wednesdays at 8 PM GMT, or Saturdays at 5 PM GMT, where I let's play whatever I'm currently playing on the PlayStation 5. It's currently Lies of P.
Also, if anyone wants us to start a Blue Sky account, given Twitter's general state of things, please let us know, because we can go and hook one of those up as well. Because why not?
Sure.
We have a Patreon, patreon.com/thingsgettingstrange, where for as little as $3 a month, you can have access to our Let's Play of the X-Files FMV game, and our review of Catatonia, Mulder and Scully. The former one is definitely more of a lure than the second one, I think.
There'll also be other things to follow. Once we're through with this, we're planning on looking at the X-Files PlayStation 2 game, as well as things like the adult novels, the comic books, and Nick is determined to get his hands on the trading card game.
Yes. Also, the other YA novels that we haven't covered with not the episode adaptations, those standalone ones.
Agent of Chaos and whatever the other one's called.
Yes, and come next year, we'll have the new one to do as well.
Oh, yeah.
So there's 3 tiers. For as little as $3 a month, you get access to everything. If you give us the highest tier, you will do a little shout out to you at the end of the episodes.
Woo!
Also, if you can give us a reviews wherever you find your podcast, that'll be great too. Our theme music is Vision by Kevin MacLeod. You can find that on Compotech.com, licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0. Thank you all for listening, and until next time, please remember,
the darkness is upon us.